I may not be the smartest guy in the room. And the stuff that they bring to me is just invaluable how I refine and operate my business.
What's going on? This is the Indie Investor Podcast. Brett Snodgrass here. I'm back with Mr. Dave Short, legend in the house. What's going on, Dave?
Hey, what's happening, Brett?
Not much, man. Thank you so much for being back with us again. We just did a podcast episode with Dave on basically he's been a fix and flipper for 50 plus years. And he's talked about on that last podcast about what it was like this year in 2023 versus a year ago and what you should be doing differently now as a fix and flipper in the Indianapolis market. Today, we're going to be diving into another just strategy and maybe a passion that Dave has, that he has kind of stepped into co-working space. He's a leader at the CIREIA, which is the main networking group for real estate investors in Indianapolis. And we're going to just talk about that. So let's just talk about, Dave, you got into this co-working space like several years ago. So let's just talk about the why behind that. And why did you do that in the first place? I mean, that's not your thing. You're a fix and flipper. You do residential real estate, and you bought this. You got into this. Why?
Well, the quick story is CIREIA, which is Central Indiana Real Estate Investors Association, was looking for a headquarters, and they reached out to me and said, we'd like to buy our own building. And couldn't find one. So I had located my building at 6767 East Washington Street. And we decided that we could do a joint venture where CIREIA would lease some space from me. Then I would develop a co-working space and an event center in Irvington, which was really short on this kind of space. It really had no co-working space, and it really didn't have an event center or a place anybody could meet. Mm-hmm. Well, we developed it and things were going well. And then when I call the Irvington Event Center now, it's kind of a field of dreams, but the people couldn't come, and because COVID hit right as we were getting ready to fully market that. So we kind of sat vacant for a couple of years and trying to bide our time to be positioned to go when it finally went. The Irvington Event Center was kind of a dream of mine as we got into it with CIREIA, because I wanted to create a real estate incubator in Indianapolis where a place real estate people could come and work and become family with each other. And that's how the co-working space was kind of designed. And the event center would be for CIREIA for all of their meetings and all their subgroups that went there. So everything has kind of come to pass, and at our center, our co-working space is probably 50% real estate people today. And we still have some openings for some more. We do, it's kind of a situation, Brett. I want to give back to the community, and that's why I'm so active in CIREIA. Mm-hmm. I like to train, I like to mentor people, but I can't necessarily mentor people one-on-one. Mm-hmm. So we developed the co-working space to where, if you're part of our space, we have an every other monthly meeting for members, and we basically get in a room and we mastermind real estate for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So the person that's walking in our room to learn about real estate, but to also share their deals, and for us to help help people get deals, and to pass around deals that maybe I'm going to pass on, but it's still a good deal. I might bring it to that group, and one of them would take it up. It happened last week where it had a house, and I just brought it to the group, and I said, I think this is a good flip, but it's out of my area that I want to flip. And one of the girls in our office got on the line, bought it 2 days later, and just closed it and made a $30,000 plus profit on the deal.
Wow!
So it was basically a mastermind formation. The Irvington Event Center, and I want it to be, I want it to be kind of a legacy for where I'm going. Mm-hmm. On it. It's a beautiful space. We've got great traction on the space right now, and CIREIA has jumped in, and CIREIA, like all other organizations like ours, went down to under 400 members from a top of 1,000 members.
Mm-hmm.
We're now back up to 600 plus members, and we're methodically growing and getting the right people who want to be in the real estate business contributing and coming to our meetings. So it's reformed its legs. I mean, groups like your group, Simple Wholesaling, have been instrumental into helping us grow, keep that growing, bringing a lot of education to the groups.
Mm-hmm.
So CIREIA has, CIREIA, I think, is $295 a year. And if you want to get in the real estate business, it's the best bargain ever, because all the information that we put out there. If you attend every live meeting that CIREIA has in a month over the year, then your cost of meeting is $3 a meeting. I mean, wow. It's just a tremendous value.
Yeah.
When you think you can get in a room on a meetup with a Ronnie Reese or yourself, people who have done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes, get in a room with me on the subgroup that I take, who's flipped over 400 homes, get in a one-on-one meeting with Elizabeth Morar, who has done Airbnbs and is one of the top consultants in the country. She'll sit there once every other month and share 2 hours with you to learn her business. And you just can't buy that.
For sure.
Kind of one-on-one contact that CIREIA brings to the real estate business, whether you're seasoned investor or whether you're a newbie that's just trying to get in it.
For sure.
For sure.
I love that. Well, let's talk about so you bought this co-working space, kind of like this legacy incubator. Really, I think your dream was to have just real estate investors in Indianapolis just come together, mastermind together, work together, be kind of a family together. Obviously, you guys had some bumps along the road. Any community event space, office space has had tremendous challenges over the last few years. So, what's that look like for your office now, your co-working space? Is it, someone's looking to, just to have that community around them, they want to come in and you have private offices? Is it just a big open space that people work in?
We have, our co-working space is approximately 12,000. It pushes on 12,000 square feet with the event center and 4,000 square feet of outdoor space with a bar. And for as little as $129 a month, you can have workspace in our building, access to private conference rooms for meetings, come in here and just work on. And, right now there's, besides myself, there's 2 other flippers in the building that's working, that if you went up to them and say, hey, I got this problem, or I need a waterproofer, you can get the answer immediately. You can basically, we are family. We'll do everything in the world to help each other secure your deal, to the point of, I've went on appointments when they said, here, hey, I'm going to look at this house. Well, I'll go with you if you want me to, or somebody else will go with them. So we have private offices. So if you want to have your real estate team in here, you can have a private office that seats 4 people for $790 a month. And, that would include your janitorial. It would include high-speed internet, all your copies, snacks, coffee. I mean, the people sitting in Starbucks working on their real estate business can be in my space and get your coffee for free,
right?
and have family with people that have like interest.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I think the co-working space has definitely grown, but I think the thing that you really bring is really just that real estate expertise and just the location. I think the location is great for Indianapolis, right in Irvington there. That's awesome. Talk about your event center a little bit. I know CIREIA rents out some of that space. I've been in that space. It's an awesome space to rent out. What are some other organizations that have maybe came in that someone would be interested if they're looking for, some sort of an event space?
Well, we had one of the large real estate groups last week brought in a national speaker to speak to their agents, and they had 150 of their agents here, and the guy, they took the conference room. We've had a lot of corporate type meetings in our bar area, 40, 50 people, 60 people, pretty comfortably. We've had weddings in the space. We have several booked in the near future. But we're starting to do a lot more co-working space. Irvington had their ball here. They had to, because of COVID, they were dormant for 2 years. They had their ball here and had 400 people. Had the after party and they had close to 500 people coming through our space. So our space lends itself out for parties low as 25 or 30 up to 200, 300 pretty comfortably with the whole space. So it brings a lot to networking. We have several networking groups. One of I think the groups was a networking group is Menosis to Midnight, where they just came in and just networked among themselves for 4 or 5 hours in our space. So we can be pretty accommodating and make sure your corporate retreat or your thing works out perfectly for what we've got excellent staff here to make sure your event goes off without a hitch. And our space is comparable, if not nicer than most of the event centers around town. And we're very affordable in comparison to other event spaces around town. We want to work, our goal too is to work within your budget. We give you some latitude on catering and some things that other high-end event centers won't do. So awesome. It's, we got outdoor space, we got gaming space. It is a very cool facility. So
awesome. Sounds good. Yes, it is. It's amazing. Let's just kind of end as we talk about the event space. And what is the kind of your event space? Is it the Irvington?
It's the Irvington Event Center.
Irvington Event Center. So check that out. Let's just talk about CIREIA. I know CIREIA's had some upy roads. You've been a huge instrumental part of CIREIA. And you guys got down to 400 members. Now you're up to 600 and you're continuing to grow. Like, where's CIREIA going? And how are you right now in this season continuously just trying to bring value to your members and clients?
Well, we have Vicki Perry was our longtime executive director. Vicki is retired and doing great in Florida. But we've hired Elizabeth Butler as our executive director, and she's a whiz in regards to training. Sterling is our president. I'm the vice president, and Grant Anderson is the secretary treasurer. And what we're doing now, and it's kind of going to come out it starts coming out in the next quarter. We're doing modulars for high level training, where we can take our newbie investors, get them in the proper entry level training that they need to be in, and then basically take them up and help them progress into higher levels of learning within our modulars at CIREIA. This is really high level stuff, and if investors who want to learn this business, it's substantially less from a cost standpoint than if they went out and had to individually buy these types of programs. And it's going to be made available to investors as they try to grow their business. I know you're a big fan, as I am, with with training, and you can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so nice. I have a lot of knowledge. I've got a lot to learn, but it's so nice when I can go into the room where I may not be the smartest guy in the room, or
Mm-hmm.
probably not the smartest guy in the room. And the stuff that they bring to me is just invaluable, how I refine and operate my business. So for these newbies coming into it, they get that with CIREIA. I mean, they're in a room, they're, in our main meeting on first Thursday of every month, there's going to be, you're a newbie wanting to learn our business, and there's probably 10 people walking around that will communicate and talk with you and try to answer your questions. That's flipped 1,000 homes,
Mm-hmm.
between them, or they've created, they do mortgage and notes, or they've wholesaled. Wholesale business is, you know, it's certainly nothing. It's not rocket science. It's
Right.
just applying principles to do the job. And
Yeah.
you can, the beauty with wholesaling is that you can do it at every level,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to do it.
For sure.
I mean, it's like when I ask somebody, or when somebody asked me a question at a meeting, well, how do you find property? I've been looking for a year and I can't find property. And my question back to them is, what have you done today to find a house?
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of sets them back, but it makes the point that they need to work.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was looking for houses, I knocked on doors. I've knocked on thousands of doors over the
Mm-hmm. For
years
sure.
to find a house.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Every once in a while you find one. It's pretty scary,
That's
just the
right.
way that happens.
That's right. You will. You will. That's awesome. My last question for you, Dave, is this. We've talked that's amazing. I think, just the training that you guys are doing that's adding so much value. I think, for me, like, there's so much out there, but I have to kind of go and find it and figure it out, and then just to have something local with someone and people that I trust that is packaged. It's just really really nice that I can get that, and you guys are offering that. We've talked a lot
Well,
about.
the beauty of CIREIA is, and one of the things we like to do, and it's really important for new investors, is to get them on a rail.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys aren't geared for flipping. Some guys aren't geared for wholesaling. Some guys aren't geared for doing notes. So we try to help them in real estate, as you know. I mean, you're self-admitted you're a terrible flipper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
am.
And I'm a terrible wholesaler.
Yeah.
I get it, because everybody asks me and says, well, why don't you do wholesaling to find your own deals? And I said, well, I would love to, but I can't pay the price that Brett pays to be the best wholesaler in the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a lot of
There's a
work. It's a
price to pay
business.
for us
Yeah.
to be in our business.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work. It's a
It is
business
a
in and of
lot of work.
itself. It's hard. It's so hard. I mean, tell me, like, who is the best wholesaler and the best flipper in their market? It's not really out there. They
It doesn't
either.
exist.
Yeah, I know. So that's awesome. My last question would be for this, Cyree. You've talked a lot about like new investors. Is there things that experienced investors can come? You yourself, you said you get a lot of value from it, but experienced investors, someone that has flipped a few houses, that kind of has their rhythm with that. Like, is there things from CIREIA that they can glean from as well?
Yeah, for sure. The people that we see show up that's flipped a few houses and are not in it now, it's kind of like they've lost their way.
Hmm.
They would do it again, but they've kind of lost their way doing what they did to find the first house or the second house that they flipped. So when we get that investor who say, well, I've flipped 5 houses in the last 3 years, but I haven't done anything for 6 months. Well, it's because they've lost their way.
Mm-hmm.
So now they can get to a more experienced person and say, okay, what do I do to get back on track?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to be pretty simple, but yet they need to hear it.
Yeah, for sure.
So we can help that middle investor either expand his business or have it get the proper footing that it needs to be.
Mm.
So we can bring a lot to that kind of semi-seasoned investor, and and then they can also bring, by them sharing. My business is better because I share.
Yeah, for sure.
It puts me online. It keeps me going forward in the right direction. Keeps me on my rail with it. So by sharing, and even that seasoned investor hasn't done anything in a while, he has a tremendous amount to offer the newbie, and that newbie now can learn for him, and now he has to be more accountable.
For
That
sure.
makes him a better flipper too.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Dave Short, the legend himself. We talked about the Irvington Event Center. If you guys are interested in that, it's also a co-working space. It's an incubator for real estate guys here in Indianapolis. If you have a team there or you yourself, and we've talked about CIREIA, definitely get plugged into that. I think if you want to really invest in Indianapolis, you have to get plugged in to the investing club. So awesome job, Dave. Thanks for being on the podcast today, man.
Enjoyed it.